Alright guys, so let's go ahead and edit our photos. Really, we're going to be editing one photo and then applying those settings to our other favorite photos to see which ones we like most, which ones we might want to post. That was totally Dr. Seuss, didn't mean for that to rhyme. Moving on. So first thing you want to do is go to all photos, and let's go down to the ones that we took today, and just pick one to start with. And I'm just going to pick this one. So, first thing you want to do is just go into light, and let's start playing around a little bit. So, exposure seems to be fine where it is. I'm just going to leave it at 0. If you had a photo that was too dark, you can bring that up. Highlights. The blue sky is really nice, but in a lot of my photos, I love the blown out sky look. So I'm going to bring the highlights up a little bit. And the shadows, I'm going to bring down. I like more of the contrasty look. So a little too much, she's silhouetted. A little too much in the other direction is just, there's not enough shadows. It looks kind of unnatural. So let's bring that to about a negative 15. And I hardly ever play with the whites and blacks. So now let's go over to color. And I don't ever play with the temperature because it just kind of ruins the photo if it's outdoors. If you're indoors and your photo's too orange, you can bring it some blue. If it's too blue, you can give it some orange to compensate to get in the middle. But this photo is in the middle already. Same with tint. Brightness though, vibrance. You can bring the vibrance up if you're going for that really punched color look. A lot of people love that. It's happy, it's bright. I kind of like the other direction. I like that kind of bleakish, high bleach bypass sort of look. So I'm going to bring that down to a negative 20. And same with the saturation, just a little bit. Let's do a negative 10. So there's still some color left, but it is a lot more faded than before. I like that style. If you want to go for the high punchy color look, go for it. So now let's go over to mix, and let's start playing with some colors. And really all I like to do is go through all the colors and just see what happens. So drag the hue slider, see what happens. Not a whole lot here, so I'm not going to mess with the reds. Orange. Okay, we got a lot happening here. So this is going to be a style choice. A little too red, a little too yellow. I do kind of like somewhere in the middle. I'm going to bring just a little bit of red out of it, like a negative 10. And these differences are going to seem so minute right now, but when I show you the before and after, you'll notice a difference. So let's play with the saturation. So I brought down the saturation of the rest of the image. If you really favor the color orange, you can bring everything down like I did and then just boost the oranges, which does look pretty nice. I don't really like the oranges completely desaturated. So let's play with, let's say a plus 15. The orange is a really cool color. Plus 15. Okay, luminance, can bring them up, bring them down. I think that is a little too bleak, and that might be a little too bright. I do like the brighter side though, so let's do a plus 15. Let's do a plus 10 on that. Okay, go through the yellows. It is changing just a little bit in the trees. You can see it on the trees and then the reflection in the water. I'm going to do a negative 10 on that. Bring the saturation down just a little bit. Okay, greens, same thing in the trees. So a lot of the time what happens is the greens are more of the shadows in the trees, and the yellows are more of the highlights. So the greens, I kind of like a little bit of green, so I'm going to punch out those just a little bit. Let's do a plus 12. You can play with the saturation. I'm going to leave it at 0 though. Luminance, not doing a whole lot, so let's leave it at 0. Alright, so the blues, Light blues don't do a whole lot when you're shooting in the middle of the day like I did. Ideally, I would have loved to take this photo at sunset, but with timing, I couldn't quite do that. So let's go over to the dark blues, and this is what's going to affect the sky more. So you can really see the purple to light greenish blue. I always favor the light greenish blue just a little bit more, but like I always say, less is more. So let's do a -10. You can play with the saturation. I like it desaturated just a little bit. Let's do a -20. Luminance, so that is too blown out. I do like a little bit of detail in the sky. Otherwise, it kind of turns into dead space up there. So down, all of a sudden, you have ruined your image if you do this. You can see all of the pixels. It just looks like a really poor quality image. That's because you're trying to find detail behind that overexposed sky. So this is why I always say to shoot just a little bit darker, because you can always bring those up. But when you bring them down, you ruin your image. So a little bit is okay, but I kind of like the boosted sky, so I'm going to give it just a little bit, a +5. Purples don't really do anything, so let's bring them back to 0. Same with the pinks, not really doing a whole lot. Let's leave them at 0. Hit done. Now for some polishing, go over to effects and boost your clarity or bring it down. Some people like the soft, fuzzy, dreamlike look. I'm not that big of a fan. I don't really like the super punched out either. I always do just a little bit. Let's do a +8. And I always add just a little bit of vignette. So just to show you what's going to happen, I don't like the midpoint being way in. I like it to be right on the corners, just like that. And we'll bring the vignette amount. So that's too white. This is a little too dark. Somewhere right about there. Which, again, you're not going to notice much of a difference right now, but when I show you the before and after, you'll see it. And you can play with the rest of these settings, but I don't typically touch them. And another thing that you can play with, and to be honest, I don't touch it a whole lot, but maybe you'll like this more, is you can change the color and luminance and saturation of the highlights or the shadows. So if I want my dark shadows in the picture, which is kind of around the trees, around her, I can just drag this around and I can create a really cool look to it. Cool as in cold. Or I can do more of a warmer picture, kind of like she's standing on Mars. Really just depends. And if you go to the very top, none of this is really going to look good. So don't stay at the top. Come down to where you're in the lighter area and then just drag across and see what happens. So some of these are cool. It's not bad right there. I'm going to leave it at 0 to show you what we do with the highlights now. So the highlights, same thing. The sky is what's being affected the most because it's the brightest thing. So you could do, let's say, a really cool sky, and shadows you can make really warm and do kind of an aged photo, which is a really cool style. But typically the adjustments here aren't as minute as playing with settings. So let's go back to 0. Now this photo needs to be brightened up now that I just saw playing with the highlights. Let's go back over to light, boost the exposure just a little bit. Let's do a +50. And let's call this done. So that's the before. That's the after. That is the style that I went for. If that's not your style, that's okay. Play around and see what you like. But I really like the way it's gone. And really what you want to do is apply this throughout all of your photos that you're posting to Instagram or Facebook. And it's kind of like a photographer's signature onto your photos. When they see that color profile, they think, oh my God, that looks like so-and-so's photo. So develop a style and play with it throughout all your photos. So now what you can do is go to the 3 dots at the top, hit copy settings. Let's copy all of these settings, hit OK. And you can go back to your photos and apply that same style to any photo. So let's do the one right next to it. Hit the three dots at the top and hit paste settings. So now we've applied that same look to this photo. And I'm doing this before and after by just holding my finger on the screen. So I'm holding, you can see it, letting go. So let's go back, and what else do we like? I like this vertical one. This would be a good one for Instagram. Three dots, paste settings, and now we can see what we've done. Another cool trick you can do is find one small accent color that you can apply to all your photos. So if you're typically in your photos or you're taking a photo of a friend, in this case it's my girlfriend, you can go to color. She's got a red hat on. I could tell her to bring that red hat every time we go take photos, and it'll be consistent throughout all the photos. So go to mix, and you can grab the reds and pop them a little bit more. Make that red hat really pop out. See what I did there? So, again, go to any photo, take this one, three dots, paste your settings, before, after. So this one needs to be cropped. We've got too much on the left. And it needs to be straightened, like that. Hit the check mark at the bottom. And all you want to do is just go out and take 20 to 30 of your favorite photos, or of the same photo. You probably won't like 19 to 29 of them, but you might like one. So edit your favorite one, apply it to some of the other ones that you like your second, third, and fourth favorite, and you may end up with a group of photos that you can post in a sequence to Instagram or Facebook, and they all look consistent with the same style. So good luck, go try it yourself, and I'll see you on the next lesson.